What's happening, and welcome back. The mysteries embedded into time sparks a question. What is time? How does time work? What am I doing with my time? And today we're going to look at one of the questions that posed the other day. How does one account for their time when there are mysteries embedded in time that can be confusing and that can potentially kind of get us kind of like off track and not realize that all things work together for them who love God and are called to his purpose. So today, man, I'm super excited about it, about this topic, because this topic has a dream embedded into it that I'll share. I've shared it before. I'll share it again. And that dream has, it's one of these things where when you get a dream for something, man, it's like, especially when you know that the dream was real, man, it's no greater feeling. So back in 2021, I had a dream, two dreams actually, and I'm going to share them. And as I was sleeping, I can't ever say that I've ever remembered any dreams for this amount of time. Just remember them. And so that's why I know that they're very powerful. And I'll share kind of like how I know, like why this topic today is so important. Is that when I had the first dream, it wasn't, or it was one of these dreams where you're in the dream, and then you start to feel like you're in a dream, and you know that you're in there, but you can't come out. And so I was sleeping, and I was in a room. I can't remember where I was, and I'm looking up, and all of a sudden I said, God is here. Imagine like being in a room somewhere, being like especially if you're a believer, you want to know God. God is here. Where's God? Oh my goodness, God is here. And I kept saying, God is here. And as I looked up and I'm saying, God is here, while I continued to, I was saying it out loud, audibly in my sleep, I was being elevated. I woke up. I looked around. I was like, oh, I was in a dream. But the next morning I asked Jenny, I says, hey, was I talking in my sleep last night? She says you was, but she didn't understand what was going on. She didn't try and wake me or anything. She says, yeah, you were. I said, wow, that was interesting. Soon after, another dream follows. Remember, God is here, elevation. I'm recognizing God in my life. The next thing you know, I'm having this second dream and my phone rings. And on the phone, there's a person who says to me, hey, give me your banking information. What do you mean? Who is this? I'm a friend. Don't worry about it. What? Okay, so what do you want? I want your banking information. Why do you want it? I want to send you money. You want to send me money? You don't know me. Doesn't matter. I want to send it to you. I give the information. He says, check your bank. I looked. There was $33,500,000 in my bank. And I woke up and I was like, wow, what is this? That's a mystery. And that mystery is embedded in time. So, what is time? The infinite continued process of existence. Continued process of existence. So we have to continue something in order to do something, or in order to be something, and in order to have something. I'm going to go back and say that the right way. We have to continue to be something in order to do something, and in order to have something. I would like to have that $33,500,000 in my bank account. I would love that. Wouldn't you love something like that? If somebody just transferred that money into your account for whatever reason, or if it's for no rhyme or reason, wouldn't that be amazing? That would be awesome. And here's the thing. It's the continued effort of becoming the person that should have that in their bank account. It's the continued effort that becoming that person puts you in a position to do some things. Because when you're doing the thing that person would do, then the result is just about guaranteed, but it's the continued existence of it. Yeah, so Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for them who love God and are called to his purpose. I love how Ephesians 1:11 says it. In Ephesians 1:11, it says, in whom also we have obtained, this is through Christ, we have obtained an inheritance, being predestined according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. The mysteries embedded in time. You know, we wake up every morning after sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours. We just slept away those hours. What were the mysteries that happened while we're sleeping? What was taking place in our bodies? What was taking place in the environment while we slept? There's mysteries there because we don't know. But in the word, it says God knows all. God knows that all things. God knows all things. How does one know all things? And how does one know all things, especially from a perspective of someone that's trapped in time? Why does God even use time? Well, that's a good question. I can't answer for God why he uses time, but I'll answer according to an assertion that I can make right here based on my understanding of where we are in life. When God decided to make these things called humans, think about this. He knew exactly the capabilities and the potential of the humans. How does he know that? Well, because he's the creator. Just like if you create something, you know the ins and outs, you know the specifics. Just like Elon Musk, he creates a Tesla car. He knows the ins and outs of this vehicle. So because he knows the ins and outs of the vehicles, he can understand anything that could potentially go wrong with the vehicle. That's why they create warranty books, because they give the warranty books like, look, at any of these things, like if anything happened, or if they just give you this book, this gives you all the stuff, maintenance records, how you got to do this and how you got to do this and how you but if something happens, just send it back to us. So what God did when he created the humans, at least this is my assertion, he knew exactly the potentials of things that can happen. He says, well, how can I protect them? Remember, God wants to protect his own creation. He says, I got to protect them, because based on who they could be, based on what could happen, I got to put some parameters around them so that if that happened, I can still fix it. See, check this out. So how could God predestine everything? Because he figured out a way so that he can give us exactly what we need, which is free will, choice, do whatever you want. You don't, if you decide not to follow me, but I still want to redeem my stuff. I still want to come back and get it at some point. And in order for me to do that, if I want to redeem it and fix it and bring it back to where I wanted it to be from the beginning, I can create this thing called time. So God creates time. He creates time because he knows that even though he doesn't live in time, he puts us in time so that he can use time for his good. For we know all things work together for the good of them who love God. So all things work together for the good of them who love God. And God knows everything. He says, I'm going to go back to Ephesians 1:11, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance, that $33,500,000. How did I come up with that number? You probably was asking that question. How did I come up with that number? Did you know that there are 33,536,000 seconds in a year? Some years ago, I was studying time. And I was studying time not from a scientific perspective, but just from a perspective of, look at all this time. Look at these years behind me. Look at these years in front of me. Look at this time that I have currently. Look at all this time. And I said, there's such and such. The one that sticks with me the most is the seconds, because we get more seconds than anything. If you multiply those seconds by your years, it would be an infinite number. Oh, look at that. Did you know you are an infinite being? God created you with no limits. None. He created you with no limits. Now there's limits because now we're limited to time. So there are limits. But in ours, there's nothing you can't learn. I'm saying it again, there's nothing you can't learn. But there's a mystery of time embedded into that. And when I say there's a mystery of time, because sometimes you don't know how long it's going to take to learn that thing. Last night when we were at dinner, I had a random, I come up with random questions. I asked Jenny, it says, hey, what have you learned in the past 7 years? What have you learned in the past 7 years? See, because that question speaks to a time period. It speaks to a from and to. And anytime we want to figure some things out, we can go and look at a from and to. We can go look at where was I a year ago and where am I now and what has happened in between. One of the things I learned in that time period, or even just a little bit longer time period, I would say in the past 10 years, is focus. Sticking to one thing long enough that you actually get what you said you wanted. Sticking to it and not allowing anything in. I was talking to Shauna yesterday, and as I was talking to her, we were talking about all these things we have to do. I says, look, I can only do one thing. What's the one thing we should focus on? That was a transforming question for me, even though I asked the question. I knew what the answer was, but it transformed me because man, why am I doing more than that? When that one thing that I want, the one thing that I should be doing would expand my business, my life faster than anything else that I'm doing. So why wouldn't I just be doing the one thing? So when I tell you that what I've learned in the past 10 years is absolute focus. Now, here's the thing. There's a mystery of time embedded into that. Because the mystery of time is, okay, you may not stay focused a whole day. Then that means that I gotta learn every day how to get focused and stay focused. I gotta learn that. I gotta keep doing it over and over and over and over because the time is the way that we can then, I can go and judge myself with the time. I can go and reflect on it. I can go and take a look at, okay, so this day I did like this day I did like that, this day, and this day, and this day. It's kind of like, I was replaying the tape on some old time this morning, habits from, the past, I don't know, 12 years before, 12 prior years. My kids were in school, how I operated was different. And then they left and it changed how I operated. Not in a bad way, but it changed kind of like my schedule. Time is interesting, isn't it? Let's go back to that definition because time is the infinite continued process of existence. I can say an events in the past, present, future, regarded as a whole. But I like the beginning part, the infinite continued process of existence. What are we continuing to do in time? So if you're going to answer this question, how does one account for their time? There's a mystery there. And we got to understand that the reason why that question is so important is because in what order do we account for our time? What do we focus on that helps us to account for our time? Am I going to focus on merely having the $33,500,000? Am I going to focus on that? No. Why? Because that comes last. That comes as a result of the use of time. How did one use their time that got them what they got? So it's, if I'm going to account for my time, I must understand the order. What is the order? I must become a person in time who can have what it is that I want. Jay, how long does that take? The question is, well, that's the question. We don't know. Well, I wanted to happen this week. We still don't know. Why don't you work hard this week and see what happens at the end of the week? Then you would know that, man, it didn't take a week. Then you can just go in weekly cycles and then say, why? It didn't happen this week, didn't happen this week, didn't happen this week. But then the weeks add up. Those seconds add up. And then you can have a full accounting of all the seconds and days. You can say, it took me 10, 15 years to get here. Or in my case, it took me 52 plus years to get there. Look at the infinite amount of time that I use, whether it was good time or whether I use it in a bad way. Look at the infinite amount of time that was used, because when we multiply 33,536,000 seconds times the amount of years, you're going to come up with a number that's way bigger than you can imagine. How does one account for their time? Is to understand that there's mysteries embedded in time, that in order to understand it for our own understanding is to go through it, is to become the person that you should be. Become that person. Measure the time that it took you to become that person. And here's the thing, you can become that person in mind and in spirit right now today. That doesn't take any time. The time takes in the next step. Doing. This is the hard part, because we can desire, we can become in our minds as much as we want. The doingness will be the test. That's where your time will be tested for whether or not you are worthy, whether or not I am worthy of having what I said I wanted. So if we were going to unlock these mysteries, it's become, go do everything that person is supposed to do. What you will discover in that process is that it will never end. Time does not end until time ends. When we die, that's when time will end. But until then, you and I can live an infinite life right now. Stay focused, my friend. Allow yourself to understand the infinite continued process of existence, which is time. There are mysteries there, but understand that those mysteries are there to be revealed in you and through you by becoming the person that you were created to be, so that you can do all those things that person can do. And the rewards. What are the rewards? The rewards is the $33,536,000 of in my dream that I know that God has blessed me with already. So go and discover your mystery that is trapped in your time today. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the Healthy Accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.